Am I the idiot for removing my wife's wrist privileges? Sorry for this random throwaway. I am 36M and she is 34F. The honest core of this question is that I am super anti-notification. I know I sound like a boomer, but I got sick of knowing that Aunt Maple commented on my Insta post years ago. I will open the app if I want to know that. I do not need to know about Aunt Maple's comment until the second I seek out that information. However, I appreciated the health and activity features on the Apple Watch. So I got one for myself and I tediously curated the information delivered to me on my wrist. Notifications are even worse on the watch because I can't exactly just flip the watch over and ignore it. My wife, whom I love very much, wanted to make sure she could get a hold of me, so we use a chat app that allows notifications. The rules were very clear when I switched to this app. She can text me once and I'll answer at my earliest convenience. I will always know it is her texting because she is the only person who has access to my wrist notifications. Any more than one text means an emergency. She has run afoul of that rule many times, as you can guess. She says she very literally cannot stop herself when she gets excited and that she's not neurotypical like me, so I can't understand. And she's right, I don't understand what it's like to have ADHD, but I do know what my boundaries are with my wrist buzzing while I'm at work. Last week, she sent me like 4 consecutive texts because she found out that her coworker, who I don't know and frankly do not care about, had gotten a DUI. While he was in college, years ago. So that night I sat down with her and said I was not going to do the wrist notifications anymore, and that I'd regularly check my phone for messages from her. She was kind of vaguely mad about it for a week, but yesterday I finally just confronted her about it and she said that she thought I was being disrespectful of her limitations, and that everyone gets used to notifications eventually. I said it had been 3 months and I was still not used to it, and she said I should give it more time. Here's where I might have been an asshole. I told her I thought this was a tiny issue that wasn't even worth being angry about. I still check my phone for her texts and I've never missed one by more than like 15 minutes. I also explained that she can still call me if there's an emergency. She's still mad. ETA okay, she got home and I just had a short but really helpful conversation with her. She said that she didn't really want to buzz me all the time, but she felt really special that she was the only person who I allowed to text me on the watch. She was sad that we lost that little intimate connection. And that makes total sense, and we both committed to finding a good solution that makes us both happy. Really sorry that I dragged so many people into this. It was a small thing that could have been solved by both us being super vulnerable and honest with each other. Comment 1. I would suggest getting a second messaging app, e.g. Signal, and using that for random chatter. Saving SMS for actual emergencies, she explicitly wants you to get a wrist notification from. Or vice versa, connect Signal notifications to your watch and ask her to use those in case of emergency, and regular SMS, which will not generate a notification otherwise. Comment 2. I think that's what this was supposed to be. My wife, whom I love very much, wanted to make sure she could get a hold of me, so we use a chat app that allows notifications. The rules were very clear when I switched to this app. She can text me once and I'll answer at my earliest convenience. She's made it clear that this isn't something she can manage. Update. I wanted to update this to share some things I learned while we resolved this problem. Obviously, it ended up fine. It was a small problem that bubbled over, not a real issue. For people out there with ADHD partners, especially guys with ADHD girlfriends and wives, I learned 2 things that could help you in the future. 1. Rejection sensitivity is a common symptom of ADHD, especially in women. It stings extra when someone tells you no. That's why I got a big reaction from my wife. I didn't feel like I was rejecting her, only setting a boundary, but she felt differently, and her feelings matter to me. 2. Lots of people with ADHD have been told their entire lives that they are too much, and that they should take it down a notch. This is true of my wife, who has a very big personality. Hearing me ask her to control her wrist buzzes seemed a lot to her, like I was telling her to be smaller, to shut up. Those 2 things combined created hard feelings on her end. There was always going to be some conflict when I set that boundary, but I could have been more sensitive, and she could have been more communicative and understanding. These are the travails of marriage. It was a little speed bump and we got over it. Thanks to all the commenters. ATIA, this was the solution. Honestly, it is so dumb simple. We moved the Yes app, Google Chat, to her second screen and moved the app we use with everyone, Signal, to her home screen. She can still access my wrist, but she has to think about it for an extra quarter second. It has solved 100% of the problem. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my wife her parents are not allowed to ever watch our son again? My wife and I have a 2-year-old son and have been married for 4 years. Our anniversary was a month ago and we found a nice, secluded cabin on Airbnb and rented it out for a long weekend getaway. My wife asked her parents if they would be willing to watch our son and they agreed as long as we dropped him off at their house. That worked for us since it was on our way anyway. I was raised Lutheran and my wife was raised Catholic, but neither of us currently go to church and have not had our son baptized. My MIL knows this and hates it. She thinks our son needs to be baptized or he will burn in hell. She's that kind of Catholic. So we go on our trip and when we pick up our son and ask how the weekend went, MIL says everything went fine and that she has saved my son's soul from the devil. I ask her what she meant and she says she had our son baptized that morning at her church. I tried my best to keep my cool so I didn't scream at MIL in front of my son, but I pretty much grabbed my son and left. On the car ride home I was fuming and told my wife as calmly as I could that this would be the last time her parents have our son unsupervised. She tried to downplay what her mom had done, but I told her we need to wait until we get home to talk about it because I'm not fighting in front of my kid. When we got home and had a chance to talk about it, things got heated. I told my wife I no longer trust her parents with our son and that if they did something like this behind our backs I can't trust them to respect our wishes as parents in the future. I said this was a huge breach of trust and I will forever look at her mom differently. She continued to try to defend her mom saying that she was only doing what she thought was best for her grandson. She even downplayed it by saying that it's just a little water and a few words and we don't go to church anyway, so what does it matter? I told her that under no circumstances will I allow her parents to watch our son by themselves again. I said that we can still let them see their grandson, but only if we are present. I also said that if she doesn't see what the big deal is with this situation, that maybe we aren't on the same page as parents and maybe we need to see a counselor. She started crying and said that this isn't the kind of decision I get to make on my own, and I'm an asshole for trying to tell her what kind of relationship her parents can have with our son. I told her that I no longer have any trust or respect for her parents and that I don't know if there's anything they can do to repair that. I told her I don't care if that makes me an asshole, but what her parents did was unforgivable in my eyes, and they put themselves in this position to lose privileges with our son. She's been trying to convince me to change my mind for the last month, but I'm not budging. To me this is a hill I'm willing to die on. Comment 1. I am Catholic and unfortunately this is all too true in poorly run parishes. Ours does not allow this at all and we require proof that the godparents are current and active Catholic participants by receiving letters from their priest, and we also require a nighttime class that you must answer questions and pass. Edit to add, I suspect the mill is buddy-buddy with the priest. Remember in Mad Men that priest who went to people's homes to eat dinner and socialize? I lived it, we served lunch and dinner on tons of occasions. Comment 2. Anyone can perform a baptism in an emergency. One of my childhood friends was very ill as a newborn, so ill that they thought he might die. One of the midwives baptized him with his parents' permission. When he survived and his parents wanted to do a proper baptism, the parish priest refused since the child had already been effectively baptized. The grandmother may have misunderstood these rules and performed the baptism herself assuming that it would be effective. Whether grandmother performed the baptism, had conned a priest into doing it, or found an awful priest who was willing to do it against parental wishes, OP is 100% NTA. This is a massive breach of trust and I would not be comfortable leaving my child with someone who so wantonly disregards my wishes. Update. First off, I want to thank everyone who sent me supportive messages and advice. I never expected my post to get so much attention. Since many of you requested an update, here we go. Turns out some of you were right, my wife was in on it. I confronted her a couple days after I posted and directly asked her if she knew that her parents planned this. She broke down and confessed everything to me. Emmael had been pestering her about baptizing our son nonstop, and my wife finally caved. My wife has been working from home during COVID while my job requires me to go into the office. My wife and Emmael started doing Zoom meetings with Emmael's priest to start the baptism process. They lied to the priest and told him that I was okay with baptizing our son but didn't want to be involved. The priest allowed it, and they started doing online baptism classes while I was at work. My wife admitted that she planned it around our anniversary getaway and that Emmael had somehow convinced the priest that her and Raphael would be the only ones in attendance. My wife told me that I wasn't supposed to find out, but Emmael couldn't keep her mouth shut for even one day about it. Their intention was to keep this from me permanently. I did contact the church to let them know the truth. I talked with the priest and he was surprisingly helpful. He said he would take the proper steps to make sure Emmael is no longer welcome in their church and to reach out to the local parish to see what further steps need to be taken. I have yet to hear back from them on that. My wife and Emmael are mad that I got her kicked out of her church, but I don't care what they think or feel anymore. These people who I love and trust had betrayed me, and I felt a range of emotions I didn't know existed. My wife begged for forgiveness, but the fact that she didn't come clean on her own makes me feel she would have kept this from me unless I confronted her. She's willing to do therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I don't know if I want to put in that work. I feel like there's no coming back from this. I contacted a divorce lawyer and started discussing what a divorce would look like and if there is any way I can add provisions to a divorce agreement that would keep my in-laws from seeing my son unsupervised. He's been very helpful, but I have not given him the go-ahead to actually file for divorce yet. I feel I am still too angry about the entire thing to think rationally, and want to give myself time to fully grasp what a divorce will mean for me and my family. My wife and I aren't talking much. I pretty much go to work, come home to play with my son, go to bed, and repeat. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but I do know that without the support and help from people here, I don't think I would have the clarity I do now. Comment 1. I'm sorry you're going through all this, and I'm particularly sorry the one person you should be able to trust in this mess is on the wrong side. If you don't feel like therapy with her would be productive right now, maybe consider going on your own to see if you can sort through the anger enough to figure out the path ahead. I think this is extremely telling, though. My wife and Emmael are mad that I got her kicked out of her church. You did not get Emmael kicked out. The priest, aka the person with more incentive to be concerned about your child's spiritual well-being than your feelings than anyone else in this situation, looked at the matter objectively and went, "This is not what God wants, and our community doesn't want it either." The fact that this hasn't prompted a similar "wow, we really were out of line, weren't we?" realization from your wife is not encouraging, to say the least. Comment 2. I grew up Catholic but no longer practice, for many, many different reasons, some of them listed already. Although my fascination with religion and the effect it has on people and their actions has never gone away, the whole, all wars are based on issues with land and religion, is something I believe wholeheartedly. I even minored in religious studies, despite never returning to the church. But purgatory/limbo, it was abolished in 2007 by Pope Benedict XVI. It was never actually part of the church doctrine, just taught for over 800 years. A cruel and confusing thing, for no reason, to decide something Catholics must believe in, if you ask me. Anyone who still believes in purgatory/limbo is behind the times and technically in violation of Vatican law. Thanks for watching Emma's Story Central. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing for daily uploads. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make better content. You can also check out yesterday's video by clicking on the screen. Thanks for watching and have a great day.